I'll walk you through what a typical video walkthrough would be like. So let's look at this here. So here's the resume that the resume checker is looking at. So I can see that there's some information which is not in bullet points. This looks like contextual information and description of the role versus an accomplishment. So I would recommend converting this to an accomplishment and putting that as a bullet point. There's no need to have description. Instead, if there was an impact for high-end smartphones market, can that be mentioned in one of the bullet points? Same for the other bullets across the roles. And I would recommend keeping the experience as the top section because that's the most relevant section when you are applying for a product management job. Let's look at what the analysis says. The analysis says that across all the product management, this resume is highlighting and is showing that it's really well at ideating on solutions and monitoring success and monitoring metrics. There's a big area for improvement for prioritizing based on impact, deep diving into customer needs, and then defining requirements or use cases. I can see that 16 bullet points here start with an action verb, but 5 can be edited to. Some of these 5 might include the description text that we have here. Most of the bullet points are quantified, 18 bullet points are quantified, 3 are not. So what's working well for you in 18 bullet points, you can also apply for the other 3 bullet points. The product management skills highlighted best are ideating on solution and monitoring success on metrics. So we have gone through this. The other recommendation I always give aspirants is to make sure that your top 2 bullet points, which in this case is these 2, highlight as many product management skills as possible. Because if you look at a heat map of where recruiters or hiring managers read, they will read your first 2 bullet points completely and then scroll through the left 1/3 of your resume top to bottom. So you want to make sure your skills are highlighted well in the top 2 bullet points. This could mean changing the order of the top few bullet points. It could mean merging multiple experiences, multiple bullet points, or if you have like 2 small stories, making it one larger story, and then making sure that you're highlighting the skills or like choosing complementary bullets there. In this resume, the top 2 bullet points are highlighting 5 of the 9 skills that a product manager would have. Scrolling down, you can find more detail into which skills you are able to showcase in which bullet point. So that gives you an idea of improvement. For example, I realized the top 2 bullet points in this case would be from the education section, looking at the output here. So that's another reason why we don't want to keep education section at the top, because you would have a lot more meaty accomplishments in your experience. Let's take one sample bullet point. So if we were to look, created and presented a performance linked retention appraisal scheme, which was adopted by the MD for the organization. So here I am talking about some kind of benefit, some kind of scheme, but so if I created and presented something, that means I did some work between identifying problem to ideating. There's some work there, and since I presented, so then the planning and execution is also, I have shown planning and execution. But was there something related to how I launched this with the team? How did I make sure that the scheme was adopted, not just by the MD but by the organization? So if I did something like that, then that will come in the go-to-market or the product launch skill set. Scrolling down is the other aspect you want to ensure for your bullet points is you are starting them with an action verb, because as I was saying, recruiters or hiring managers are scrolling through the left 1/3 of your resume, and you're quantifying your work, quantifying your accomplishments. It can be estimates, guesstimates, or numbers or different kinds of ways to measure your work, and talk about that here. Now let's talk about an iteration on this. So that was V1 resume, this is V47 resume. Now let's look at how this does on the resume parser. So here I see, I will scroll up so we can see a side-by-side comparison. So in a side-by-side comparison, I can see that I was able to start showcasing my strengths in prioritizing and deep diving into needs. So I wasn't able to still show strengths and requirements, use cases, or iteration. One of the reasons for this could be that one person decided to not showcase the skills on some areas based on what's your personal preference. For example, who has worked as an engineer, there could be an assumption that you are great at ideating on solution or like writing or like getting deep into work, but are you also great at talking to customers or prioritizing across needs? So you might also want to showcase complementary skill sets in your resume compared to the expectation based on your role title. I can see that all bullet points are now starting with an action verb. All bullet points have some quantification. There are no bullet points which are only pure description or context of roles, and experience is on the top. 6 of the 9 skills are getting highlighted in the top 2 bullet points. So there's room for improvement there from going from 6 to 7, 8 or 9. I can see that there are two skills which got highlighted only in 2 bullet points. So at least 7 out of 9 should be the goal here. Scrolling down, you can see which bullet points are highlighting which skills, and if there are some which are not highlighting any skills, you can choose to take them off. For example, the second last point here, presented design thinking series to 60 members, coached 11 students on tech career search on a weekly cadence. So it's highlighting 2 skills but not a lot of other skills. So if I'm short on space, this could be a bullet point to remove, assuming I have sufficient numbers in both of these. The ideal goal has to be at least 4 or more resume bullet points for any skill you want to show is a strength of yours. Scrolling down on action verbs and quantification, we can see that the bullet points are quantified and they start with an action verb. So all good here. Let me know if you have any questions.